Well, here we are again at another field day, 2009.
Yeah, boy, it's 8:30 in the morning, and it's just too early, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I got here about 7, and there were already 3 or 4 guys here buzzing around.
It's nice, though. It's pretty cool. We're located right on the edge of the reservoir. We'll give you a shot of that in a minute, and breeze is coming through, and we got cameras in the hand, so we're ready to go get some footage.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen some pretty cool toys over there. I saw a sort of a version of a potato gun. I'm excited to see in operation.
Yeah, me too. We'll definitely get the details on that, and if we can get George out of bed, we'll get him up here and he can see it too. Where is he anyway?
He's probably exactly where you said, but he'll be joining us shortly.
He's the late crew for the day.
Yeah.
You and I are the early morning crew, and we're going to cover the early morning. He's a night person, though, so we got him slotted to come in about dark 30, right?
Yeah, we can let him work the night shift.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I saw some guys down here putting up a vertical down the hill here out in the sunshine, so I'm going to go have a look at them. Where are you going to go?
Okay, I'm going to check out these guys. They putting up a Carolina Wyndham.
Oh, yeah, good antenna.
Yeah, they're going to be using the potato gun thing I was talking about.
Thanks to all the JARC members. This is their banner right behind us, and Andy and the JARC were nice enough to invite us down here for field day, and boy, we're just going to have a blast.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks to the guys for inviting us out, but let's go see what we can find.
Let's go.
Here's a field day vertical for you in 5 easy steps. Step 1, the base. You've got to have a good foundation for your vertical. Watch these guys as they put this one in the ground. Next up, step number 2, the actual vertical. Get that puppy out of the truck, bring it over here, let's set it down and put it together. But don't forget that base. We're not quite through with it yet. It's got to really be put down well. This is a nice vertical and an aluminum base with 4 good anchors. And that leads to step number 3, the actual raising. Take that vertical carefully. Note here, Todd and Bill both grab a hold, and you raise that puppy up and you slide it onto the base. It's a tall thing, isn't it? This particular vertical is about 20 feet tall. On to step 4, very important step, the radials. A lot of people don't realize it, but radials can really help your pattern, really help your swerve, really help your strength at a distance. Note here Bill's placing the flower pot on one of the verticals, and that's to alert passersby that to beware that there is a wire lying here on the ground. Now that those are down, step 5 is all that remains. Tuning up. We want to make sure our vertical is somewhere near resonant on each of the 4 bands.
I suspected that they might have an influence.
1.2 to 1 on 20 meters on 14,250.
And you said 40 was good too now, right?
40 was like 1 to 1 almost.
And there you go. A field day vertical in 5 easy steps.
Well, it's really been hot today here, hasn't it?
Yes, sir. It has been very hot.
It has been really, I guess you would say, excruciatingly hot, although we haven't suffered that badly.
Speak for yourself, you weren't here around noon today.
Well, of course not. I went inside in the air conditioning. I was here this morning, all morning, from about 7:30.
Well, you see Peter joined us here. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Peter. We can see you, too.
Yeah, it's cold here.
How cold is it there?
Oh, it'd be about 8 degrees Celsius. It's a cold wintry day here in Victoria.
If 0 degrees Celsius is 32 here, that means it's only about 40 degrees or so there. Yeah. So for us, that's about cold, yeah.
Yeah, cold.
Right around 100 here today.
100.
Well, that is hot.
It's got about that much humidity too.
Pull
I
out your
understand it's humid as well.
pull out your heat light and turn it on while we're filming so that you can feel the virtual presence of Mississippi.
Well, I actually have a heater just down at my feet here. It's keeping me warm.
Wow, I can't
I'm
imagine
jealous.
that. Yeah. Well, Let's get started. We've shot a good bit of footage today of just different things going on around field day here at Old Trace Park in Richland. And well, one thing we saw this morning is crank up tower, getting the antennas put on it. And what exactly did y'all shoot there?
Well, we shot quite a bit. Tommy first shot them. Did you shoot them putting it up?
No, actually it was up when I got here, but they had a climber come by. They had a problem with the rotor cable, and they had a climber come by, climb up and
we
connect
shot
it.
that. They did get the problem fixed, but it was quite an experience.
Yeah, let's watch this now when the climber showed up. And one word of caution here: this is a crank up tower, and you should never climb a crank up tower. It's just not safe. You could lose an arm or a leg or your life.
Or both.
If it were to suddenly collapse.
Yeah, so don't try this at home.
Wire is unhooked. I need it loose from the building all the way to the tower.
Oh, you did?
Somebody can untie that rope that the messenger came.
Jim, what else did you see in the area of antenna raising going on here today?
Ooh, a lot of cool stuff. We put up some Carolina Wyndhams for one, and we did that via a very interesting instrument, I guess you'd say. I kind of almost have one like this at home, but it's not exactly like it. I call mine a potato gun.
Yeah, this is a pneumatic version. It's a really interesting piece of gear. I think I'm gonna have to try to make one of those.
It does an awesome job getting the antenna line up. I've not found anything better. I've been an advocate of the bow and arrow, and I use the bow for short shots and just with a fishing arrow. I really like that for short things because good control, but it is hard to beat this thing. But again,
are we ready to pull?
Yeah, you can go ahead and try to get that one on up.
Let's see, what tree would be a good one for?
That's a question, all right.
Oh.
Where do we get? Come down first time.
Okay, Gary, bring the string.
There you go.
Well, to continue on with our usual method of doing things, let's have some emails here.
That sounds good. We've
looks
had
like
quite a few.
Tommy wants to do one first.
Yeah, I'm dying to do one. We've got one here from WA1REQ. It says, hello from the One Network. Our purpose is to promote friendship and amateur radio across borders and cultures. We're a group of amateurs who link together on Echolink node WA1REQ-L. Our group is international, and we would like to invite you to come and visit our node. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. Keep the connection to the network. We have a roundtable session each evening from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Daylight Time. Look forward to hearing you on. And I have not had a chance to go there. Have you been there yet?
I don't remember. When did we get that? June 10th? No, I haven't.
June 10th. It's just recent.
I should have gone there. Jim, have you got one?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, from Northern Kentucky, Bob, K5DZE, writes, says he really enjoyed our show on the NCDXF beacons, you know, the DX beacons you listen to tell how propagation is. And Bob is originally from Columbus, Mississippi.
Oh,
so he's a fellow Mississippian. And he's offered some suggestions on future pieces we might do. One, he says, is some of the 10-meter beacons. They have a whole range of frequencies in 10 meters from 28.175 up to 28.3. And of course that's going to be getting hot with the new solar minimum going away and the solar maximum coming on. And another place to listen for beacon activity, he says, is on LF, or really on the low frequency band, called loafers too, from 160 to 190 kilohertz. And he says, lastly, if you want to get some really good experience hunting beacons, you can go down between 190 and 530 kilohertz for NDBs. I bet you know what those are. November Delta Bravo beacons.
Navigational beacons.
There you go.
I've
Thanks,
listened
Bob.
to them.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. I've got an email here from our buddy Mike. You remember Mike, the guy who helped me build the antenna.
Yeah.
He said he just happened to stumble across a pretty cool site. At least he thought it was. I thought it was too. Check out the homemade cathode ray tube. It's www.sparkbangbuzz.com.
I saw that. It was cool.
It was cool, wasn't it?
It was
I need
cool.
to check that out.
Yeah, you
Amazing.
did. Peter, have you got any emails over there?
Well, I've got an email here from Kevin, VK3CKC, who's president of the Midland Amateur Radio Club here in Victoria. G'day, Kevin. Kevin says that, and he's got a little bit of bad news here, that unfortunately the Centervic Radio Fest, which is one of our larger ham meets, had to be cancelled, and that was due to the global financial crisis. This email is actually a few weeks old, and we have a bit of an update from the WIA. And indeed, the next year it's coming back. So as of the 14th of February, the Centervic Radio Fest will be starting again, which is great news.
Well, Jimmy and Tommy got up here this morning bright and early around 7 a.m. and got the footage that we've seen so far. And then everybody took a break. I did show up. Not at 7, though.
He's a late shift.
We committed you to working the night shift.
So anyway, Tommy and I did show back up around 2 p.m. here, and we went around to see how things were going in the contest. And we talked to a friend of mine, Charlie, who was running QRP at that time on a single sideband. The field day is officially started now. There is Charlie and Thomas working a QRP station. How's the QRP working out so far, Charlie?
It's working out actually quite well. I think we've contacted a squirrel in that tree right there, and a couple of oh yeah, there's a chicken that answered me before. It's just a rough day for QRP, but we're going to keep trying.
Okay, is this just a 100-watt rig?
It's a 100-watt rig, and we had it down to 5 watts trying to do some QRP stuff.
How long are you going to stay at 5 watts?
Let's see, what time is it? We're going to try a while, and then we'll raise the power up again. But that's what field day's about, is about giving different things a try, you know.
After we left there, we walked over to the CW tent and saw a solar panel there. So we talked to our friend Andy to find out what was going on with that. What's your call sign, Andy?
Whiskey Bravo 5 Tango Tango Echo.
What can you tell us about the power you guys are using here for your CW setup?
Well, right now we're running off a battery. We started out with a solar cell charging the battery so we could get the natural power points. There's some bonus points for the first 5 contacts, and we wanted to make sure we got that first. But we've got a battery that running at 5 watts will take us all through field day. 155 amp cell tower pull-out battery.
Oh, great. Well, appreciate it. How you having any luck making any contacts?
Well, we're starting out pretty good. CW is going to be a strong contest station. I don't know how the sideband's doing yet. I haven't made it up there. Digital got started off pretty good.
Yeah, we just came from the QRP guys up there. They were having a little bit of a tough time getting started.
Not doing so well. Well, we gave them the best antenna, but, you know, CW is going to make it through.
Well, this is the kind of power most of these guys out here are using. We saw the solar panel over there, but the QRP guys and the single sideband guys we're going to see shortly, they're all running off generator power. I believe you get more points when you're operating off alternate power. This one's actually pretty quiet compared to some of them.
Okay, yeah, we got an email from David, and David says he found us on YouTube, found a video there on the MFJ site, and he enjoyed it. Episode 20, I believe that was, wasn't it? And
I think so.
He also enjoyed the one on the MFJ antenna analyzer.
Well,
I think
nice
that
box.
was episode 20. Oh yeah, we were using one this morning, setting up the vertical.
Okay. All right, I've got another email here, and this is from our friend Randy, K4QO. And he said he's discovered recently at work on a lot of the older computers that he keeps getting odd errors. And eventually the trouble starts getting into the boot up of the machine, and eventually they stop. And after looking for problems with the hard drive and viruses and such, they finally noticed that there were some electrolytic capacitors on the motherboard that were leaking. Y'all remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, you know, a few years back, there was some counterfeit capacitors that got released in China or somewhere. Someone copied one of the major brands and stole a formula from them, but the formula actually had a flaw in it. And so they
Stole the wrong formula.
They stole the wrong formula. And they made a lot of these bad capacitors that got sold to a lot of computer manufacturers. So if you're having strange problems like that, you might just want to take a look on the motherboard and see if you see some little crusty stuff bubbling up out of the top of some of the capacitors on there. Yeah, I have replaced those before on some computers myself, so if you've got a problem, might take a look at that if it's a few years old. There were several brands that were affected by that. Peter, have you got another email down there?
Sure, George, I've got an email here from Ben G4BXD, which, unless I'm grossly mistaken, is the United Kingdom. And hi to all our British and UK listeners out there, and I'll be very polite and not mention the cricket. Yes, he says, Ben says, hello Peter, well one should never rely on the BBC and in particular their documakers. He's of course referring to the recent segment that I did on the Radio Museum here in Melbourne. True, spy sets were issued to resistance and the like, but they normally were escorted in with a trained operator. None of the wartime spy sets I have or can think about used AM. It would just take too long to pass messages and would be totally insecure, brackets no coding. That I find quite interesting. It makes me wonder a little bit about what coding mechanisms they did use and what methods of transmission were actually used during World War II. So I might have to have a word with Major Jim and ask him about that. Thanks, Ben.
Okay.
Very good, very nice.
Yeah, I've got an email here from Mike, W8TG. It says, Tommy, I really enjoy the shows. I think you should visit one of the big gun contesting stations, especially during a major contest, would be of interest to many hams. Keep up the good work. And that actually is a good idea, but I don't know anyone here that I would really consider a big gun. I know there's some guys that probably have some pretty good
and while
setups.
This isn't technically a contest today, Field Day is very similar to a contest, and some of the footage we have shown and will show will at least capture that flavor. But yeah, it is a good idea. Maybe we can
if
do.
we can find someone, that'd be a pretty good segment,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. It's a great idea. Thanks, Mike.
In fact, you can film me after we get through here. I'm
Yeah,
going to
you're
go
the big
down.
gun.
I'm going to go down to the CW station and make a few more contacts.
Big,
Yeah,
big
burn
gun?
that
Will you
key
big
up.
finger?
Yeah.
Big gun?
Da, di, di, da, da.
Well, a little earlier this afternoon, in the middle of the heat wave that came through here, I had a chat with Ron Brown, the state races officer, AB5WF. Ron, good to see you today.
Good to see you, George. Welcome on to the heat.
And it's definitely hot here today. Have you heard what the temperature is supposed to be?
Well, I heard the real feel or the humidity added to it's going to be around 103.
Wow, I'd believe it. If it wasn't for this little bit of breeze we got going, it'd be unbearable.
That's right. That's right. Breeze is good.
What are you doing here today, Ron?
Well, I'm really just observing, and when my shift comes up, I'll be operating on sideband, one of the sideband stations, or sideband station later on, one of the frequencies there, and just really visiting with people. That's one of the benefits of the field day, is being able to socialize with people you've talked with on the air for lots of times.
Yeah, are you in charge of the VE testing going on here today?
No, I'm just one of the VE examiners, and I'm standing by the schedule for later on today, and our team will be here, and I don't know how many people we'll have to visit to test, but we're ready.
Well, you know, Tommy and I are got our VE papers too. We've never done a session yet. We're going to have to get on that.
Well, I tell you what we can do. We can list you on the roster and get you on the payroll and get you down here and give you an opportunity to participate in a VE session if you got your credentials.
I didn't bring it with me, unfortunately.
RACES is the Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Services, RACES, and our plan is to have an ham radio operator in every EOC in the state where there's an activity, a disaster or some event going on, and reporting back to MEMA. I operate the station in MEMA, and we're there and want to be able to contact any of the locations where there's a major disaster as backup communications for the state.
Oh boy, it was nice to see Ron again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about Field Day. You get to see everybody that you haven't seen in a long time. That was really good to see all the guys here today. I'm looking forward to going back and doing a little more. It's just about sundown here, local time, so it's not over yet.
No, by no means.
Not over yet.
It'll be going on until 1 p.m. tomorrow.
That's right. And are you staying overnight tonight?
They said I couldn't.
They said you could not. Oh,
yeah, they said I had to go home.
I'll have a talk with them about that. We'll see.
They said as soon as the mosquitoes get to biting, you have to leave.
Well, that's now. All right. Well, I got one more email here from N0MNB, and he says he's really enjoying the show, and he thinks we're doing excellent things for amateur radio. And he says he bets we get a TV series all our own, especially with all the new tech in amateur radio and cat controlling of radios via software and that kind of thing. And he's really interested in that portion of ham radio. And he wants to thank us for our excellent contribution, and he says, just keep going.
I think a good time slot for our series would be right after the home improvements reruns.
You think?
Right after Tim the Toolman Taylor?
Oh yeah, that'd fit right in.
You think we could stand up to that? Well, I've got one more email here, and we try not to discriminate on this show. But this is from Kyle, and Kyle says, "Hi, I live on the East Coast, and I recently found an old Sears 23 CB radio."
Well, that's what you mean by discriminating.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So he says, "I have an antenna, but I'm unable to get any kind of signal. Took it to a friend's house. I was able to get great reception. I was getting signals 9 to 10 miles away, but when I hook it up at the house, it's nearly impossible to get any kind of signal. Do you have any tips for better reception? I'm pretty new at this stuff, and I don't know anything about the position or height, if that plays into it or not." And Kyle, yes, it does. The height is almost everything. That has a whole lot to do with it. You also have to have a good low SWR match on the antenna. And you'll need an SWR meter to check that with. Maybe one of your friends has one. But check your antenna, check your cable, make sure that it's not shorted or open.
That's what I was going to say, is the cable.
Mm-hmm. That's what it sounds like.
I'm not sure what the statistics say about radio, but I know in computer, the statistic is 90% of the time the troubles are in the cables. It's the cable. So check your cable really well.
All right, Peter, why don't you give us another email?
Sure. I've got an email here from AA6KI in Tucson, Arizona. Hi Peter, I've very much enjoyed your discussions of the Deegan DE1103, and thanks to your recommendation of 2 of these lovely radios. I just wanted to let you know that it's probably okay by now to remove the stickers from the front of yours. And of course he's referring to this little radio and these rather kitschy little stickers on the front. I'm not quite sure what they are. They're probably promotional stickers talking about the various features in Chinese, but I rather like them. I'm going to leave mine there. Thanks anyway, Jerry.
All right. Yes, sir. I've got an email sitting here hot and ready to go, just like me.
Hot and ready to go, huh?
It's from our friend Don, KC5CQW. It says, "Great to have y'all back online. One of my co-workers, Rich, introduced me to a website that may be of interest. I want to share it, www.scanamerica.us. It says it hosts scanner feeds from around the country and even archives audio for future reference. Richard's very proud of his setup for Broome County, New York, and he has quite a setup with 40+ scanners, commercial grade preamps, RF splitters, RG6 coax. Sounds like he went all out. Actually, it's so organized and well equipped that it will make many of us jealous. I appreciate that, Damon, and we'll have to check that out."
Yeah. Well, also a little earlier today, in the heat of the day, We did get to step into the air conditioning for just a minute and take a look at the digital mode stations. Unfortunate for them, they were still outdoors. Tommy and I were looking through the window, but we're standing inside with the air conditioning here, Tommy and I are, and it sure feels a lot better. These guys out here in the heat are operating digital modes. I can see they're using my favorite rig, the Kenwood TS2000, and it looks like they're running DM780 software. I believe that's what that is. It comes with Ham Radio Deluxe. That's the same one I run, and I can't tell what mode that they're using there. I think it's maybe PSK, but not sure. We're going to go around and have a little chat with these guys, see how they're doing with digital modes in QRP. It's a lot hotter out here, and we're going to meet these guys working the digital table here. Hi, I'm George.
Rue Yates.
Rue Yates.
Bill Richardson, N5VEI.
Yeah, Bill, we've met you before, I believe, at the Hamfest. We had a little chat.
All right, Billy Collier, Alpha Echo 5, Charlie X-Ray.
Hey, Billy, good to meet you. Well, tell me, how has the digital been going so far?
Yeah, it's been going okay. We've had a few computer problems, and we're up and going again. Otherwise, it's kind of slow going right now. It's QRP is a little harder than normal operations, but we're trying.
Well, are you hearing any signals?
Oh yeah, we're here, and they're packed in like sardines.
So when they give the word, y'all are ready to bring them on in, huh?
Oh yeah. It's just hard. It's just hard talking back. I mean, right now we're looking at about 40 signals, and with 5 watts, it's kind of hard to weave your way in. So, but yeah.
Peter, you produced a segment for us this time. What have you got?
Well, a friend of mine was asked to build a television for the Australian Centre of the Moving Image. They're having an exhibition of the history of television. The only difference was, though, he actually built a mechanical TV. It's actually a replica of the mechanical TVs built by John Logie Baird back in the 1920s. So let's have a look at that. Hi everyone, I'm at the home of Chris Long, VK3 AML, here in Melbourne. Chris has been building a mechanical television, is that correct, Chris?
Yes, commissioned by the Australian Centre for the Moving Image in at Federation Square. They approached me with the idea of setting up a display of early television for incorporation in a display of the history of the moving image, including motion picture and television components. And they were particularly interested in getting a model going that could demonstrate to people the very first type of television practically demonstrated in the 1920s, mechanical television, mechanical scanning.
Okay, on that point, I understand it's a replica of the machine that was built by John Logie Baird, and a key question is actually who was technically the inventor of television? Was it an American or a Brit or a Scot or what?
That depends on your definition of invention. I think for most people it's not sufficient just to conceive of television, because people were publishing possible concepts for television back to the 1870s when the photosensitivity of selenium was first discovered. But it wasn't until the invention of the triode valve around the time of the First World War that amplification made all of those early proposals possible. And from what we know of the history of television in the 20s, mechanical scanning was pursued by a number of experimenters who were trying for television in the early 20s. But Baird, John Logie Baird, a Scot working in London, an experimenter, was really the first to be able to reproduce the human face by reflected light, live and with grayscale. Now, if that's your definition of television, and it is the Oxford Dictionary definition of television, then Baird was the first to demonstrate it. Whether he was the inventor is a moot point. He was certainly the first person to demonstrate live television of people. There were some earlier demonstrations of scanning from movie film, but we would now call that telecine. It required an awful lot of amplification from a feeble old photoelectric cell such as they had in the mid-20s to activate a video chain and a television receiver, even of the mechanical type. So Baird deserves his fair degree of credit.
Nonetheless, so there were a number of inventors all kind of working on the same thing at the same period of time.
Yes, well, if you talk about electronic scanning, remembering that the difference between mechanical television and electronic television in its early stages was not great. The people working on electronic concepts in the 20s included Vladimir Zworykin, who worked for Westinghouse, later RCA, and Philo Farnsworth, who was a Mormon farm boy who got into television in his late teens as an experimenter, and by 1928 was starting to produce real pictures out of his own type of television camera called an image dissector. Wasn't the mainstream of television development as we know it, but he was the first to demonstrate practical television pictures from an electronic camera. So Baird is certainly the person who first demonstrated the practical transmission of moving pictures by mechanical scanning, but Farnsworth was the first to show the transmission of moving pictures by an electronic camera. The interesting thing is that electronic scanning was lagging some years behind mechanical in its early days in terms of picture quality. Up to the early 30s, mechanical scanning could give you a better picture. And it was only with the development of our knowledge of electron optics by people like Zworykin at RCA that electronic television really became practical and took off in the late 30s.
Okay, so the credit is sort of shared around a bit.
Yeah, there really is no single inventor. There are a number of workers who took significant steps forward, and of those, really, Baird's first demonstrations of mechanical TV of people in October 1925 and to the Royal Institution in January 1926 really does mark the start of practical television as we know it. The interesting thing is that there's been no practical public display of the principles involved actually working since that time. So what we've tried to do is to reconstruct using modern components but copying the principles as closely as possible, a model showing all of the principles used by Baird to produce the first practical television images.
And there's another name for a mechanical TV, isn't there?
Well, when it was marketed as a commercial device for receiving pictures of experimental transmissions by the BBC from September 1929 onwards, Baird made mechanical television receivers available using scanning discs in a kit called a televisor. That was his name for it. The BBC would run his video, which was only 30 lines of vertical scanning, over the medium wave transmitter in London. For the first 6 months from September 1929, they ran only pictures and then sound alternately. It wasn't until March 1930, 6 months into the transmissions, that they got a second medium wave transmitter to simultaneously transmit sound. So from March 1930, they had simultaneous motion pictures and sound transmitted over the medium wave AM stations. And as a consequence of that, those television transmissions had an enormous coverage, particularly at night. There were viewers as far north as Iceland, the north coast of Iceland. There were viewers as far south as Spanish Morocco that are documented, which means that for a radius of around about 1,000, maybe 1,500 miles around London, people were receiving those early medium wave television transmissions. They only occupied 12 kilohertz worth of audio bandwidth. Well, I suppose you'd call it video bandwidth, but in an audio width.
Yep.
So you could transmit them on medium wave. That's one of the major interests that I have from the point of view of ham radio, the ability to put these pictures on HF, perhaps with a little bit of bandwidth limiting. Okay, you're looking at the camera end of the optical system. This is not just a television camera and receiver separate. It's a demonstration model in one piece that's designed to show the whole flow of image scanning and reception by the old mechanical method, from the initial object through the camera lens, scanning system, photocell, video amplifier, and off to the monitor. So we start with the camera. We have a camera lens, fairly standard type, in the front of the scanner. That lens focuses an image of this title card, for instance, onto scanning disc. Scanning disc, which I can actually expose by lifting the camera's optics out of the way, like that, has a series of holes, little apertures, cut in a spiral formation on the disc. So as this rotates, each little hole passing a square gate in front of the camera lens will scan one line of video information, and then of course the spiral goes back to the start and you start a second picture. So for every rotation of this disc we transmit one picture. 12.5 rotations a second, 750 RPM, and you transmit a moving picture. So in the back of this camera we have a photo detector. Now originally the photo detector would have looked like this. This is a potassium photocell of the late 1920s, rare as hen's teeth. This in fact came out of the Regent Theatre South Yarra, where it was used for scanning optical soundtracks in the first talkie projector they ever had there in mid-1929. That would have been in this box originally. Now there are problems because modern photodetectors, particularly PIN photodiodes, are small. They don't pick up from a very great area. So to compensate for that, there is the PIN photodiode, that little tiny device there which has a sensitive area 4mm square going through a discrete amplifier of quite a few dB gain. It's an amplifier there and a final amplifier there. That converts the flashes of light seen by the scanning process as a result of travelling through the apertures in the disc. There's a condenser lens system inside there that condenses the light going through that disc's apertures onto that photocell. So that's how the camera works. It converts image, mechanically scans it into a series of light flashes for the photocell to convert into a video signal. Okay, well the video signal having come out of the photocell has to be amplified, and in the 20s of course what they used were battery valves, and this amplifier, if you have a look into the amp there, a 5-stage RC coupled amplifier using Philips A409 triodes with a type 45 output triode, was what they originally used at Baird International Television Limited in the late 20s. So this RC coupled amplifier was what was originally used with a mechanical scanning camera. This design actually was published in Wireless World in September 1930. Now this actually works. This is the output stage actually for driving the neon lamp that they would have used in the receiver for mechanical scanning back at the time. But unfortunately, if we fired this up for a display, a museum display that has to be shown 8 hours a day for something like 8 years, it wouldn't last terribly long, and the number of valves of this type from the mid-20s that one can get access to now, replacements, few and far between and extremely expensive. So what we had to do was build a modern equivalent, something that had parts that we could readily replace. We had to build a modern video amplifier which could take the output of the mechanical television camera, amplify it, and then feed it into, instead of the neon lamps that were used in the 20s, the modulated light source for the television receiver, we use modulated Luxian LEDs, very, very high output LEDs. And unfortunately they require a fairly high driving power at low voltage. So this pseudo 1920s instrument case actually hides a host of 21st century evils, not the least of which are these two power FETs, they're Siemens types, on a very large heat sink. This runs in class A and it drives the Luxian bank. This is a 12 volt 18 amp power supply. These are the video preamplifiers in these little die-cast boxes here, and this there are two power FETs in series with the Luxian bank inside this lamp enclosure. Now at the monitor end of the equipment, originally there was a flat plate cathode neon lamp sitting in a box like this. What we have in there, glowing away inside there, are a group of 8 Luxian 3 LEDs. This is cheating, 21st century technology, only been available since 2005.
Shame, shame, shame.
Perhaps, but if we went to neons we wouldn't be able to replace them. They would cost a fortune to actually be made one by one, and they're fairly feeble in output. And one of the briefs I had with this is to make it viewable in a general museum gallery under general museum illumination.
What's the big disc there, Chris?
Okay, that's the receiver scanning disc. It's around about 2 feet in diameter, 32 holes in it, one for each line of the image. So we have a 32 line picture, which is tall and narrow, and you can probably see the picture scan as I rotate that by hand very slowly, scanning across the receiver screen so-called. There's an 8-inch diameter magnifying lens that you view the image through, and if you're lucky you might get an image as big as a postcard out of this. 32 lines doesn't sound like much, but as you'll see, it's actually quite enough to recognise a human face, and that was what Baird was trying to transmit on medium wave, a picture of the singer or the announcer.
And what's the aspect ratio of this?
This particular one, we've tried to imitate as closely as possible Baird's original ratio used in the late 20s, which is one unit horizontal to 2 units vertical. It's a tall, narrow picture to suit head and shoulders subjects.
So effectively portraits?
Portrait format, yeah. In no case has television since this time been in portrait format with vertical scanning lines. That rather made this different to later systems that came along. Doesn't like that. Unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to photograph the screen of essentially a stroboscopic disc rotating in front of a modulated lamp, but that's what you're seeing on the picture at the moment, broken up into bands, unfortunately, by the modern scanner within this television camera. But this is a 32-line image, and I'll scroll through a number of different test cards in a moment to illustrate the effect of movement, and then perhaps a little bit of one of the number here assembled in front of the camera, just to show that you can actually recognise people even with a 32-line scanning definition. What you're seeing there is 12 frames per second, very flickery, but that's essentially the same frame rate that Baird and his colleagues used for medium wave AM broadcast transmissions from 1929 to 1935. It was actually broadcast by the BBC on medium wave until they developed 405-line TV and switched to that in 1936.
Chris Long 32 line.
This is fanciful, 160 metre test. These are actual BBC test codes.
Yeah.
Am I in focus?
Yeah, you are actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, if you do that fast enough, you can actually strobe against the scanning pattern and your fingers look like they're breaking up.
Don't do that, people will have epileptic fits. Okay. Oh well, thanks very much, Chris, and it's a great invention, and people can, of course, go to the Australian Centre of the Moving Image and see this and other displays.
Thanks.
To finish up this segment, and to give you an idea as to just how good the images on a mechanical TV can be, here are a few still images taken of local amateurs and the Maltese Cross.
Well, that was really something, Peter. By looking at that, you can kind of understand how television works.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. Here's the thing that really struck me was the aspect ratio of that particular television. It's actually portrait format. So rather than being wider, as many modern televisions are, it was actually taller. So and it was the idea of it was designed to capture a person's head, and it does give surprisingly good resolution. And it, unfortunately, because of the various frame rates of modern cameras and the like, you can't see the full effect there. But on our show, but it really is quite good resolution.
Okay, well, I've got one more email.
Okay.
From Fox de Gamma. Remember Fox?
Oh yeah, he's the one who built the homemade crimpers for us.
That's right. He says, long time no chat, hope all is well. It's been pretty hectic for him because he's moved to Florida, or went to Florida recently, and apparently spent a little time there. He says he considers Florida to be the unofficial ham radio mecca of the world, and there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
You ever been to that Orlando Ham Fest? Anyhow, he says he's still struggling, still working toward getting on HF, but he's doing some PSK modes, and he's got the MFJ BBS running there, and Tiny TNC kit. Boy, he's really getting into ham radio, and he says they're going to try to do some more ham radio stuff. He just wanted to let us know that he's still following the show and still liking what we're doing.
Yeah, and here is the address for their videos. A word of caution though, they don't edit full language, so.
Not for children.
Not for children. And I've got another email here. This is from our friend Mike K5HUM. Said, here's a suggestion for the show. I base this on the amazing knowledge and experience you guys have demonstrated. He must have been watching something else.
So,
one of my favorite sections of QST is the Doctor is In, where readers ask technical questions and get good answers.
Me too.
Yeah, if we had someone here of that caliber, we could do something similar. Anyways, one section that he liked in particular, he thinks maybe we should have, something like Ask the Gurus to deal with ham or ham-related technical questions. Well, we kind of do that with the emails a little bit. Anyway, he had a question, and here was his question. He has one of the popular Linksys WRT54G routers, and the router has 2 antennas for Wi-Fi. And he said, I'm told it's a diversity system, yet I have no idea exactly what that implies. He says, as an example, I want to use a 9 dB gain ducky antenna. Which antenna should I replace, left, right, or both? Well, both.
both. That's what I did.
In a diversity system, the receiver is sitting there constantly looking at both antennas, and whichever one has the best signal at that moment, it switches to. And that way you can get away with a lot less power and a lot less multipath interference. That's primarily what it combats, is multipath interference.
There you go.
And let's
good job, Guru.
Let's go to one more video here. I spoke with Joni this afternoon from Skywarn. We're talking with Joni here, KE5PTL, and you're with Skywarn?
Yes, sir, I am, and Skywarn is associated with not only the Jackson Club, but also with the weather station out by the airport here. So in case of bad weather or bad guys coming in, we just go out there and operate the radios out there for the folks.
I've heard y'all many times. Well, what are you doing here at Field Day today?
Well, I'm working on really low power, only 5 watts, and these are the super high frequencies, and we're trying to make contact. Very difficult. The HF stations have a lot more power, a great deal more range. They can talk all over the world if they want to, but we're just little fellas. We're just testing out to see how well we can do.
All right, so you're working 2 meters and 440?
2 meters, 440, and 70 centimeters.
Okay. Well, thanks for talking with us, Joni. Good to meet you.
I appreciate it.
While we were talking to Joni, did you hear our friend on the other side of the table? He made a contact with our buddy old Bill,
yeah.
5YCK.
Here it is. I got a little bit of that. That's our friend Bill that he just made a contact with.
Yeah, Roger. Well, tell everybody hello. Three of them know me out there. November 5, Yankee Charlie Kilowatt. This is Bill. Up there, the big city of Knoxville, Mississippi, on the old Natchez Trace. Okay, we'll let you get back to your field day. November 5, Yankee Charlie Kilowatt.
It's good to hear Bill on there. I don't hear him on the air too much these days.
No, I haven't heard him in a while either on the air. Yeah. Well, actually, I take that back. I talked to him earlier this week, but not at the frequency that we used to talk, which was almost every day. Anyway, Bill's made it into the show a time or two, but always has a mysterious voice. He's never appeared in person, I don't think.
Kind of by accident.
We've got another frequent show guest on here. Come here, Wayne. Just step in front and say hello.
You saw him stick his head in the back earlier.
Just step in the view and wave.
Yeah. Again. Yeah, he snuck in earlier. I saw him out of the corner of my eye.
Oh, there he is. Peter from down under and Wayne from up above.
Have you got any more emails, Peter?
I got one let's see, one final email here. Unfortunately, the author hasn't left their call sign, but it's just Phil. So wherever you are, Phil, Phil has sent us a link to a web page with a whole lot of strange CW keys. We'll put that up on the screen. It's really quite amazing. There's a guitar CW key, a wallet CW key, a radio control CW key. Just goes on and on and on. Lots of really interesting pictures. Thanks for that, Phil.
Well, we're about to run out of daylight. You think we better wrap it up?
I think we better.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, goodbye from Old Trace Park for episode 24. I'm George.
Is in the can.
Yeah.
I'm Tommy.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Peter. Cheers. 73s.
Well, it has been one hot, miserable day here today.
Don't start it off like that. How do you pronounce the guy's name? N0M and B, I guess you just said.
Yeah.
That's a blooper. Okay.